Welcome everyone to this webinar brought to you today by Soroptimist International of Jakarta, SIJ for short, here in Indonesia. I'm Ayla Winato. I'm the SIJ Club Program and UN Liaison Officer, and I'll be your MC for this session today. Now, some of you may be wondering why we've chosen October to have this webinar, and we've done so for a few special reasons. Firstly, this month, Soroptimist International celebrates 100 years as a global voice for women. And as Soroptimists, we continue to work towards transforming the lives and status of women and girls worldwide. October is also Soroptimist Membership Month, where we invite those of you who are not yet members to consider joining one of the clubs in your area. But in October globally, we also commemorate two important days, especially for women. And these are the 11th of October, International Day of the Girl Child, and the 15th of October, International Day of Rural Women. Now, before we start today's program, I'd like to mention the following. We ask that you turn off your mic and your video during the presentation to help save on bandwidth. We will be recording this session to go up on our YouTube. And if you have any questions, please submit them in writing, and you can put them in the chat box, which is at the bottom of your screen there. And we're being asked here by our lovely President Ori to share your love for the speakers, SIJ Jakarta, or the event, and tag us at SI_Jakarta. Right, so to get this program started, I'd now like to invite Oriana Pitisari, our young, vibrant, and usually always smiling president of SI Jakarta, to explain briefly about Soroptimist International in Indonesia. Over to you, Ori.
Thank you, Ibu Ayla, for the warm greetings. Good day, everyone. My name is Oriana Pitisari, and I am currently the president of SI Jakarta. As Ibu Ayla mentioned, October is membership month for Soroptimist International, and this is our second year in presenting a webinar on a topic that is dear to Soroptimists as well as to Indonesia. This is a chance for all the participants not only to get some insight on the child bride issue in Indonesia, but also to get a chance to get to know our club. Jakarta is the first Soroptimist club in Indonesia. It was founded in 1992 with 20 members at that time. And just like any other Soroptimist club around the globe, SI Jakarta advocacy work and on-the-ground projects in Indonesia directly contributes to the helping women and girls access their human rights. Right now, we are working with the villagers in Rembitan, Lombok, where we have provided access to clean and running water to the village and its neighboring villages. We have also revived the weaving traditions and provided skills such as financial management, reading, and sewing, so they can generate income for their families. We have been assisting in selling products handmade by the ladies of Rembitan throughout Indonesia, Australia, Japan, but also Europe. And when the situation is better, hopefully we can all visit the village again. But for now, if you want to learn more about our projects or our clubs, or are interested in becoming a member, please visit our website, Instagram, and other channels. The details will be available in the chat box and by the end of this webinar. And I also want to thank all the SI Jakarta ladies who worked tirelessly for this event, and to our two speakers and also Mike, who are helping with the backstop. Let's have a great discussion, and I'll return the floor to you, Ibu Ayla.
Thank you, Ori. I'd now like to invite Chandra Kerton, the national representative of Soroptimist in Indonesia, to provide some brief information on Soroptimist International and also on the topic of child brides globally. Over to you, Chandra.
On behalf of Soroptimist International, I welcome you all to today's webinar. As national representative of Soroptimist International Indonesia, I represent the Indonesia clubs, which consist of SI Jakarta, SI Kemang, and SI Kebayoran Baru. Soroptimist International, or SI, is a global movement of women spread over 5 federations, one of which is the Southwest Pacific Federation, to which we belong. The theme Soroptimists Educate to Lead, with a focus on educating, enabling, and empowering, provides opportunities for members to improve the lives of women and girls worldwide and to promote human rights for all, equality, development, and peace. Our federation supports SI's global advocacy initiatives and principles set out in international treaties and conventions, including the Convention of the Rights of the Child. Every year, at least 12 million girls are married before they reach the age of 18. This is 28 girls every minute. 1 in every 5 girls is married or in union before reaching 18. In the least developed countries, that number doubles. 40% of girls are married before 18, and 12% of girls are married before 15. SI's stand on this issue is that although many other harmful traditional practices continue, SI is focused on raising awareness of female genital mutilation and the need for the prevention of child marriage. Through actions such as working with partner organizations and communities, including men and boys, to raise awareness of the impact of traditional harmful practices and working to empower young women through education programs so that they can understand their human rights in relation to all forms of harmful traditional practices. Child, early, and forced marriage, or CEFM, is a human rights violation and a harmful practice that disproportionately affects women and girls globally, preventing them from living their lives free from all forms of violence. The Committee on the Rights of the Child recommends that the minimum age of marriage be 18 years, while the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, obligates states to ensure, on the basis of equality between men and women, the right to freely choose a spouse and enter into marriage only with free and full consent. Now, in the time it has taken me to speak to you, at least one child has become a bride. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're very fortunate today to have two prominent speakers to talk on the topic of the consequences of child brides in Indonesia. One of our speakers is from Indonesia and the other one is from Australia. Our first guest speaker today will be Professor Ali Mathur. Now, let me just read you some background information about Prof. Alim, as she likes to be referred to. So Prof. Alim is the director of the Women's Studies Center at the State Islamic University in Jogja here in Indonesia. And she also currently holds the position of Commissioner at the Indonesian National Commission on Violence Against Women, or Komnas Perempuan. Prof. Alim has a master's degree in women's studies from the University of Iowa in the US and a PhD in social sciences from the Western Sydney University in Australia. Throughout her career, Prof. Alim has held numerous senior positions in a number of national organizations. And recently, she wrote a book entitled Feminisme Muslim di Indonesia, Islamic Feminism in Indonesia. She's also contributed chapters in various books and co-authored numerous articles and papers in journals and in the mass media on a range of subjects, including, but definitely not limited to, the role of Muslim women in preventing violent extremism in Indonesia, gender issues in Islam, the role of women and the media, the women's movement in the COVID-19 pandemic, and systems for the protection of women and children from all forms of violence. We'd now like you to welcome Prof. Alim to present for us today on the situation surrounding child brides in Indonesia. Selamat datang, Ibu.
Terima kasih Ibu Isla. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And salam sehat for everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me as a resource person in this great event relating to child bride married. Yeah. I will share my screen. Please let me share my screen first.
Already, Ibu.
Okay, just a second. Okay, I think this topic is very important for us because in Indonesia, particularly in the developed country. Just a second. Okay, our topic today is relating to raising awareness of the consequences of the child bride. I think I will skip my profile, and then there are three content that we are going to discuss today. First, child marriage data, and then the second one, policies on prevention and stopping child marriage in Indonesia, and Komnas Perempuan and the advocacy of stopping child marriage. So I just want to open with this case. I think this is it happened early this month, which is there are protests from school, friend, also the teachers and also principal, because their friend is married, and also one of the religious leader come to the married, and then there is protest. This is just a common news, just current news in early this month about protest for child marriage in some area in Indonesia. Okay, for the introduction, why feminists care about child marriage issues? Because women get the worst impact from child marriage. For example, the limitation of their potential because they have to leave school, take care of the children, get involved in social activity, and also make a woman poor. And because of they are still child, the reproductive health is potential damage, and also there is potential for domestic violence and divorce. And if we look at the data, this is from Komnas Perempuan last year report, which is there are very significantly increase, yeah, very significantly increased from 23,000 last year in 2019 and become 64,000 in 2020. It means there are 176 a day, and 90% of them are girls, and this is increased almost 300%. So why it happened? Yeah, I think we can discuss later about why it's happened. Now, if we look at the additional data that girls are more at risk at getting married, yeah, because based on the statistic national, that in 2018, 11% or 1 out of 9 girls aged 20 to 24 were married before the age of 18. But for men, for boys, yeah, in 2018, 1% only, which is 1 out of 100 boys aged 20 to 24 were married before the age of 18. It means this is girls are more risk at getting married, yeah, because of more girls than boys. Example of early marriage propaganda. Sometimes we found in Indonesia from certain group that they campaign to have married early. For example, this is in Indonesia, yeah, because I try to give the example exactly what they done in media. Why married early? Because they want to complete their religion, because they want to combine all potential from the couple, and also because they want to avoid, yeah, to avoid the do a bad thing. For example, this is just the example from marriage propaganda in the child. And for example, this is also another one. If you are thirsty, then drink. If you are hungry, and then eat. But if you don't have money, then just marry. And when the women tired because of working, it's time to get married. So this is also the domestication for women, and make that women is weak and depend on men. And media also frame child marriage as well. Then this is also viral in Indonesia. There is one senetron that on polygamy, and one of them is still under 19 years old. And this is the wedding organizer, which is they try to also accommodate the child marriage. Now, policies and prevention on and stopping child marriage in Indonesia. What policies that we have? First of all, there is amendment of the Article 7 on the marriage law, which is the minimum age of marriage according to marriage law number 1, 1974, from the age of 16 for women and 19 by law. So it's been right now in Indonesia, this is also the new one, 2019, which mentioned that marriage is only permitted if men and women have reached the age of 19 years. Now, I think this is one of the reasons why there is significant increase about the data until almost 300%. It means so far, girls who are married from 16 to 19 is a lot, because when the regulation is for the 19, then the increasing number for child marriage is very significant. And also one of the national priority, yeah, for women empowerment, Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, this is that the stopping child marriage is one of the national priority, which is I think there are many programs and activities, yeah, that encouraged by national women on women empowerment and child protection in ministerial. And then Komnas Perempuan and the advocacy for stopping child marriage. Child marriage makes women poor. By the rules, the person, even though she is still a child when married, is forced to become adults. Usually, it will be required to have children immediately. be independent and responsible for cultural, social, and state affairs. Many incidents after getting married, they hinder the development of their potential because they have to leave from school, for example, especially for women. So that it can cause an adequate welfare and existence of child marriage, also cause psychological development tasks to be hampered. They should still like to play, but have to taking care of the household and care. So I think sometimes mother and the kid, because they are the same kid, so they play together. Because kid having pregnant with the kid. Child marriage is part of the harmful practices. Yeah, Komnas Perempuan reminded that one of the mandate of the state parties that ratify the CEDAW, Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, is the elimination of harmful practices for women and girls. Child marriage, forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and female genital mutilation, dowry violence, and honor killing are examples of harmful practices. The Indonesian government has started a commitment to eliminating child marriage by 2030 as part of achieving SDGs, and the abolition of child marriage will contribute to achievement of Indonesian Golden 2049. I think this is part of very important point as well to contribute for the achievement of SDGs. Seek impact of the child marriage in education. Girls who marry before the age of 18 are 4 times, 4 times likely to complete secondary or equally education. And also for economy, the economic loss caused by child marriage is estimated at least 1.7% of the country gross income, because children opportunities to participate in social and economic field are hampered. And also violence and divorce. Women who married at young age are more experience domestic violence and divorce. Maternal mortality rates, complication during the pregnancy, and also infant mortality rate, and also stunting. So this is a sick impact of the child marriage. Now, why they get into child marriage? I think one of them are poverty and lack of access to education, gender inequality, social conflict, lack of access to comprehensive reproductive health services and information, social norms that reinforce certain gender stereotypes, such as women should marry young, matchmaking culture, for example, and religious interpretation and practice for local tradition. Okay, advocacy to prevent and stop child marriage. The House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia immediately produced a naskah academic and bill of the elimination of sexual violence by regulating the prohibition of child marriage as part of forced marriage. And second one, strengthening cross-ministerial synergies in implementing the national strategy for the prevention of child marriage and making the prevention of child marriage as indicator of development at all levels, both at national, regional, and village levels. And third, ensure that there are district regulation or perda and or major regulation or perwali, which ensure that each village has a valid regulation for the prevention of child marriage and valid action plan on prevention of child marriage in each village, especially areas with prevalence high child marriage. Fourth, encouraging all religious leaders and community leaders to socialize the danger of child marriage and encouraging the media to participate in the Stop Child Marriage campaign. I think that's what I can share with us on this discussion, and then we can open question and answer in more detail for discussion. Thank you very much, Bu Isla. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Alim, and certainly your talk has given us a lot of food for thought, and those statistics are very worrying, but hopefully in question time, we can tease out a little bit more information from there, but thank you very much. Now we'll move straight on to our next guest speaker, who is Dr. Diana Contreras Suarez. So let me just read you out a little bit about Diana's background. So she's a senior research fellow at Melbourne Institute, Applied Economic and Social Research at the University of Melbourne in Australia. As an applied development economist, Diana uses statistics to understand the determinants of people's health, education, and work, and to evaluate the effects of welfare and social policies with special focus on the disadvantaged. Her work covers the fields of cash transfers, child development, family and maternal health, gender inequality, and disability, which have been developed in conjunction with the governments of Australia, Indonesia, and Colombia. Diana has also worked with multilateral agencies such as the World Bank, JPAL, and World Vision Australia. And her research has been published in journals such as Economic Development and Cultural Change, Journal of Population Economics, World Development, and Bulletin of Indonesian Economic Studies. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you very much, Ibu Isla, for the presentation, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to participate in this event today. I'm very excited to present a little bit of the work that we have been doing in this area. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And thank you, Prof. Alim, for the introduction to the topic. It was a really great introduction to what I am going to present, which are the consequences of child marriage in Indonesia. So this is a work that we did in collaboration with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and this was also work with Professor Lisa Cameron, me, and Susan Vikovic at Melbourne University as well. And I am really looking forward to the discussion later. So Prof. Alim did a little bit of the introduction to this and what is happening in terms of child marriage in Indonesia. There has been some recent policy initiatives which were presented, and the main one is the increase on the legal age of marriage for women, which was raised in 2019 from 16 to 19 to be able to be equal between men and women. So the aim of this policy was not only to protect women, but also to aim for more equality between men and women in the age of marriage, the minimum age that they could get married. And as a consequence of that is, I think, what we see the increases on dispensation cases that Prof. Alim presented in her presentation, which was very interesting statistic. The second thing that has been happening is the Indonesian's national midterm development plan, which has been a conjunction between different ministries where they target a reduction in the prevalence of child marriage from 11% to almost 8% by 2024. And this is a national strategy on the prevention of child marriage that has been developed by different ministries within Indonesia. As it was presented before, the prevalence of child marriage is very high across Indonesia, and difference to the statistics that the Prof. Lim presented before, the way we decided to frame this study was to look at what was the effect of child marriage for women who were married before the age of 19. The reason to do this is just to make it consistent to the new legislation that was raising the age of marriage to 19. So we wanted to know what were the consequences. And when we were looking at the prevalence, we found that about 29% of Indonesian women who are alive today were married before the age of 19, and about 8.4% of Indonesian men were married before the age of 19. This represents about 25 million of women who are alive today, and about 7 million of men, men who were married when they were younger than 19. So there is a lot of research that has been done on the drivers for child marriage, and it was already presented in the previous presentation. And what we are going to do is to examine the consequences of child marriage. And the reason why we were very interested for this was to build a case for change and to be able to provide more empirical evidence of what are the consequences with better data, and also to be able to respond to what was the new change on the marriage law that it was introduced in 2019. So for this study, what we did was to take the Indonesian Family Life Survey, which is a large survey implemented in Indonesia, representative of 83% of the population. And as the structure of this survey is a panel, it means that they follow the same families over time to see how the life goes, changes over this period. And this started in 1993 and has been following them for 20 years in these years that are presented here in the slide. So there has been 5 rounds of this survey, which allows us to have a very good view of what has happened to people as they have grown over the last 20 years. And it's a very rich source of information to study Indonesia. So this particular, what I will be presenting today, it's just a picture of the situation of Indonesia today. And we will use information on individuals who are age 19 and above when they were surveyed. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that we can fully observe who were married as children and who were not. So for example, if we take individuals who were 17 when they are surveyed, they still have the probability of getting married as a children or as a child before the age of 19, and therefore we are not gonna include them. As I mentioned, this is a very large survey, and we are gonna reflect what was the situation for about 40,000 individuals across 20 different provinces and about 2,000 villages across Indonesia. And the sample is divided equally across rural and urban settings. So this is the map that shows what we calculate from our, with this data, how are the proportion of women who were married before of the age of 19. And we find that the highest proportion of women are those who are in Sulawesi Tenggara here, then followed by Kalimantan, Sulawesi and Kalimantan Timur, and also Lumpung, West Papua and Papua. The gray provinces are the provinces where we don't have data, but as you can show, there is a higher proportion all across Indonesia, and there is quite a lot of variation across the country. So this is what we are going to be basically studying. What are the effects across all those provinces that are presented there? Before I move it to the results, what I also want to mention is that while we are mainly focused on what's happening to women, given that they are the ones who are most affected by getting married as children, we decided that also wanted to look at what happened with men who got married when they were boys. And this was the result of discussions with grassroots organizations who were saying that this was also sometimes a problem in some places. So we decided to include them in our analysis. And the method that we are going to use to study this is one that allows us to separate the effect of child marriage from other characteristics like poverty. And we are going to look at what's the effect of child marriage. So I'm going to move into the results, and I am going to present different type of outcomes that we are evaluating across kind of the life cycle of a person. And starting from education, what we found was that after controlling for other factors that are related to education, and you can think of that as, for example, poverty. Poverty is usually associated with lower educational attainment. On top of poverty are all the other factors. We found that getting married as a child for female is going to reduce the educational attainment on average by 1.6 years. And for men for about 1.8 years. So this is about 2 years of lower education for those kids who get married as children. So the blue bar here is showing what is the average years of education that a person achieves when they are not married as children. And the orange bar here is showing us what is the difference. So here is negative under this line, which is just saying that it's a negative effect what child marriage has on years of education for both men and women. We also look at what is the effect of their employment and their labor force participation. And starting with women, what we find is there is not a very large difference. It's a 2 percentage point difference for women to be less likely to be participating in the labor market, which means having any job that pays them at least for 1 hour, or also includes an unpaid job and unpaid work. But where we found more larger differences was in the probability of women holding a formal sector employment, which means they are going to be in lower quality type of jobs. And this is going to be about 35% women are going to have a lower quality job. And when we look at the impact on the income that they will receive, we also find that they will earn on average 26% less per hour than those women who didn't get married when they were children. So this is just saying that in terms of the labor market, the type of jobs that those women will have are lower quality. We find a similar effect for men, although the magnitudes were smaller. There was not a large effect on labor force participation, mostly more all men work in Indonesia. But for those men who were married as boys, they are less likely to be working as well in the formal sector, and also the wage that they will receive in their employment is going to be on average 18% lower. Then when we look at the probability of divorce and the family structure, we find that child marriage is associated with divorce. So for women, those women who married early are about 60% more likely to get divorced. They are also less likely to have a say in household decisions, which is a reflection of having lower decision making and being less empowered within the household. They are also less likely to have a marriage certificate, which means as they have to go to different channels to be able to get married, like dispensation, they are less likely to have a marriage certificate, as some families decide not to do that. And the implication of that is that they are less likely to access the government services that require them to show that they have a marriage certificate. We also found that the children of those mothers who got married when they were a child, the children of those mothers are also less likely to have a birth certificate, which means that they also are going to be less likely to access government services. Men are also more likely to get divorced, and they also have less say in household decisions. Then when we look at maternal and child health, we find that, as it was mentioned before, in a mechanical way, the mother will have children younger, so they are going to start having children when they are from the age of 15, and they are also more likely to have more children. And this is particularly that imposes more risk to those women who get married as children, because as the earliest they have a baby, they are more likely, it increases the risk of maternal mortality as well as child mortality. Although in this particular study, we were not able to look at maternal mortality. In a previous study where we look at that phenomenon, we know that Indonesian maternal mortality is one of the highest within the region. And one of the prevalent factors for this is that women, when they have their babies very young, the body is not ready, and therefore they are more likely to die and have complications because of that. We also found that they are less likely to receive antenatal care So they have fewer antenatal checkups, which are usually very important to be able to detect if there is a problem within the pregnancy. And that's going to help detecting what is the right treatment if there are complications and prevent maternal mortality or complications during the delivery. They are also less likely to have a blood test. They are also less likely to have a fetal heartbeat check. And they are also less likely to have a medically supervised birth, which is one of the other leading reasons why maternal mortality might be high in Indonesia. So there are a lot of risk factors that are involved when in all the antenatal and natal care for women, especially when they are very young. We also look at child mortality, and we found that both in urban and rural areas, child mortality under 5 years old is higher for those women who got married when they were a child. And those differences are statistically significant. Then when we look at what's the health status of those children, the children of those mothers, we found that they are more likely to be underweight, but they are significantly more likely to be stunted. This is a 10% more likely to be stunted. And when we look at their cognitive development, we found that they are also less, 11 percentage points lower standard deviation on the cognitive development test. I didn't present it here, but we also found that they were less likely to graduate from high school. Which means that the negative effects of child marriage that not only affect the woman herself, but also is going to affect the status of their children in terms of health and education. And in general, what we found is that child marriage affects well-being for both women and men. So we find that both of them report lower levels of well-being and happiness, that they are less satisfied with their lives due to child marriage. The second aspect that we look as well in this research was what happened when children marry children. So there are some reasons and some in some cases, girls not necessarily get married to older men, but also there is some pressure for girls to get married to boys who are also underage. And this can potentially have even worse effects for these type of marriages where both are don't have high levels of education. And what we did is to look at what's the effect of that. So what we found is that the disadvantages associated with child marriage are exacerbated when both partners are children at the time of marriage. So women who married as a child and whose partner was also a child have, on top of the lower consequences that I presented before, they are going to have an additional penalty. So they are also going to have lower education, much lower education. They are also more likely to have more children, and they are also more likely to start pregnancy, having the first child earlier. The only factor that we found was, let's say, positive, is that about 2 percentage points less likely to get divorced than other women who married earlier. But for sure, that doesn't compensate for all the negative effects of child marriage. So I guess, what do we learn from this, and what can we do in terms of preventing child marriage? As it was presented before, and as I also described, changing the law seemed not to be enough. And what we saw is that after 2019, where it was the legal age for marriage for women was raised to 19, it's a good start, which reflects that the government is interested in improving this particular aspect of well-being for women. But as it was very striking shown by Prof. Alim, that hasn't had the effect that it was intending, which was preventing those girls from getting married. And this is not particular to Indonesian, but it has been proven that in other countries where this type of policies has been implemented, it takes a lot of time for them to really translate into a decrease of child marriage. So those type of changes are unlikely to be sufficient. And additional measures needs to be utilized to create an additional benefit of the existing policy. Some policies that are likely to be
It's going to rain cats and dogs. So dark.
Sorry, can you turn off your mics, please, people? Thank you.
So one of the policies that we're trying to, elsewhere, it's information campaigns. And this is probably for our discussion, which is child marriage is a cultural phenomenon and it's embedded in social norms, and social norms are difficult to change. So there has been proposals that have been implemented, not only trying to address child marriage, but other forms of gender inequality, where direct information campaigns can be a medium to help shifting these behaviors. So TV and social media could be a medium to do that. And information campaigns that are more tailored to the local and district level, that addresses what are the social norms with more detail, that could involve local leaders and social influencers, has been proven to be of great value in other settings. So probably this is one way that at the local level could be helpful to reduce child marriage. This was all for me. Thank you, and looking forward to the discussion.
Wow, thank you, Diana. A lot to think about there. And it's not only, from a government perspective, but also from a cultural perspective, as you will see in a minute, because we're going to present some testimonials from girls in Eastern Indonesia who have been child brides. And when we try to identify some young people to take part in this, the girls, interestingly enough, were quite keen. The husbands were less likely to allow them to make any statement about early marriages, and parents were not very keen either, but they didn't prevent it. So now, Ori, I'd like you to show us the video and the two testimonials that we have.
Pas berumur 16 tahun, karena saya tidak sekolah, tidak tahu mau ngapain, saya nikah. Kenal lama, sudah 5 tahun, soalnya dekat dusun. Ya langsung nikah karena suami saya dulu ngajak pas dia masih SMA kelas 2, tapi saya tidak mau karena dia masih sekolah aja dulu sampai selesai, saya bilang. Pas selesai sekolah SMA, dia lagi ngajak saya untuk kawin karena saya tidak sekolah. Orang tua saya termasuk orang yang tidak mampu lah. Selesai sekolah dia ngajak saya kawin, tapi pas selesai sekolah saya juga tidak mau. Saya mikir-mikir dulu, saya suruh dia sekolah lagi dan cari pekerjaan, tapi dia tidak melanjutkan sekolah. Dia cari pekerjaan, tidak ada kerja lepas. Setelah itu dia ngajak lagi kawin, makanya saya kawin culik dari orang tua. Pas saya nikah dulu berumur 16 tahun, terus setelah 3 bulan kawin baru hamil. Ya gugup, pusing mikirinnya. Nah, nanti kalau saya punya anak gini-gini, saya bilang, saya juga enggak kerja, cuma nendon aja.
The following are testimonials from 2 village girls from Eastern Indonesia, speaking about their experiences as child brides. They were too shy to come onto camera, so we will read out here what they described to us. The first testimonial that we're going to hear is from Winnie.
I got married at 13 because many of my friends were already married, so I thought that was the thing to do. After having been kidnapped, as per our local custom, I was married soon after. At first, I thought marriage would be fun. Then I had two babies, one after the other. As I knew nothing about pregnancy or giving birth, I had a very hard time. Now, at 17, all I do is stay at home looking after the children and my husband. Now I regret getting married so early. I wish I could have continued going to school, and I miss playing with my friends.
The second testimonial is from Rami, who related her background as follows.
In July last year, when I was only 15 and a serious student in third year of junior high school, I was kidnapped by a boy from my own village. I did not realize that my friend had planned to kidnap me, although this custom is common in my village. After 3 weeks, I was returned to my parents, who were very unhappy with the situation, as they had actually wanted me to finish high school. However, according to local tradition, girls who have been kidnapped by a male must be married off without delay. We are now married and expecting our first child soon. My husband is 19 years old, and although a graduate from a vocational high school, he can only find casual work in our area, so money is scarce.
So there you are. Poverty, lack of education, and adherence to local customs have played a role there. Right. Well, now we've come to the Q&A session of this webinar, and I'd like to ask our SIJ member Astrida Eupides, joining our session today from Canberra, Australia, to read out the questions that have come in from all of you. And there's still some space there for questions. I have one myself, but I'll hold back. So Astrida, would you like to read out some of the questions and address them to Ibu Diana or Prof. Alim?
Yes, thank you very much, Ayla. And thank you both presenters, Prof. Alim and Ibu Diana. We have learnt a lot in such a short time. So, and there is interest here. There are many questions. I'll take them chronologically, that is in the order they came, but some have a similar theme, and we'll explore that as we go. So the first one I'd like to talk about, and it's really Prof. Alim, when you said the law had been introduced in 2019 and the number of child marriages went up. So Pak Robert asks, has the recent law change resulted in a drop in child marriage, or has it just gone underground? So if you could maybe unpack more why you think the law resulted in such an increase in the child marriages at the time. And I note that it was actually really before COVID. We have heard that with the COVID pandemic, that it's likely that maybe child marriage may go up because people are poorer or trying to re-establish themselves. So we'll start with Prof. Alim. If you could please answer the question about the law and how this has changed child marriages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a good question, yeah, because the changing the law for the age of marriage from 16 to 19 for the girls, I think one of the reason why the number of child marriage was increased, because this is from the religious court with gift dispensation, because they also can get married as far as they get the letter from religious court that they are okay for getting married. So I think this is like dilemma, yeah? Like dilemma. In some point, the government trying to stop the child marriage, but sometimes in other part, like giving the flexibility, because they can go to the religious court and then make a reason, and then sometimes judges give consent, give permission to get married. So I think this is some problematic as well, yeah, that we have to understand in more detail how child, although they go, for example, can we just not having dispensation for any kind of proposal from the parent or for the kid itself themselves to have married? But as far as there is still flexibility, I think the number is still increased. So I think we have to work from both sides, yeah, not only different part that, and also different result from this issue, I think. And if you ask question relating to the COVID, yeah, I think might be some research, yeah. In some research also revealed that because of the COVID-19, because of they have to learn from home, and there is a limitation for the technological adaptability. So then sometimes they got born and then they don't have any facility for the technological gadget, and then maybe just go to the marriage, for example. But I think the number because of that is not as much because of the number from the 16 to 19 for the getting married. I think that's my explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Alim. I'll go to the next question. I'm aware because
Sorry, Astrida, I think Diana wants to say
Diana,
something.
sorry, Diana. Yes, please. What I'll do is I'll do both of you, even though the questions may be directed differently. It's a fair way. Thank you. Yes, Diana.
Not necessarily, but I think I want to add something to this question, because I think that is important to recognize that the fact that the dispensation cases increased doesn't mean that child marriage increased. What we are observing in that graph is the fact that dispensation wasn't required before 2019, because the law, like the civil law, was for any girl who was above 16, they were allowed to marry. And the change in 2019 is that only above 19 can get married, except if they have a dispensation. So that's why the dispensation becomes important at that point of time, because now they need to make that exemption. So what we are saying is that what we are observing in that plot is that the dispensation is increasing because the behavior is still happening. Child marriage is still happening, but it's not that it's increasing necessarily. It's just that, and that's why kind of at the end of my conclusion was changing the civil law doesn't imply is not going to necessarily result in decrease of child marriage, unless that is also matched by the religion law and all those practices. And that was a great way of showing that that's what is actually happening. So I really like that graph for that reason.
Yep, no, fantastic. And as you both have said, the cultural aspects of this issue are so deep. So we will, I think, talk about that in a little while. I'll go through to the next question, but some of the hardest things about that are the cultural issues. So the next one, and Prof. Alim, you said we had to work from both sides. The question is from one of our members, Ibu Kirti. Prof. Alim, could you please share your observations or stories how non-government organisations and community in general can support and participate in reducing child marriage in Indonesia? This is very important because this job, this issue needs support from the family, from the community, from government, from a lot of people. So I'd be interested in your comments on that. Thank you.
Okay, I think there are many of non-government organizations who already done for campaign to stop child marriage. For example, the one that I also involved in AISIA. AISIA is one of the Islamic second largest organization in Indonesia. And we have a program in the remote area, which is because in that village, there is like, what is it? Sayembara. What is sayembara in English? Yeah.
Like a competition, is it?
Yeah, there is competition in that village. This is based on our research. Yeah, there is competition. Who will have married with my girl, and then I will give motorcycle.
Ooh.
So
Oh,
one
boy.
motorcycle is compared with one girl, and then when they're getting married, and then they got divorced.
Yeah.
So this is ridiculous. Yeah, this is ridiculous. So that's why then, because there are a lot of child marriage in that village, and then we give a program for child women empowerment. So we collect, we ask the child married mother, and then we give like empowerment, and then also critical thinking, and also make a decision for their own, for example, because they already married. And then sometimes some of them are getting divorced, some of them still have a husband, but most of them are getting divorced. So we try to make like empowerment, yeah, to be agent of stopping child marriage. Because like in that video, they give testimony that what they have experienced for to be child married, and then they give information to other people, to other girls, so they don't follow them. So this is the one that also we done in some areas in Yogyakarta, in Gunung Kidul, because there are many women, girls who are getting married because of poverty, and also because of the access for education is far away. The school, for example, for senior high school there is no senior high school in the village. So then no money and no go to school, so then they getting married.
Yep. So just on that, Prof. Alim, how do you share that information? So you said you belong to one of the largest or second largest Islamic women's groups, or that group. How can we? So my head's going to how can we do something about this? How do you share that information with others? Is there something that your groups do or come together? Because I think part of exactly what you said, it's sharing that information or having knowledge and passing that on may affect change. What do you do there?
Yeah, we try to write the report and then publish it on the article journal, and also of course report to the organization as well about what we have done for advocacy, yeah, for stopping child marriage.
I never remember which one.
Yeah. Hello? Okay.
Okay, we can hear you, but we can hear other people too. Please remember to turn off your microphone. Thanks. Yes, so you do reports, you report back and try and spread
we write it down into article journal, because most of us is a lecturer from university, so we make a journal article to publish in national level.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So thank you, Prof. Alim. So Ibu Diana, in your research, did you come across examples of how communities or other people, NGOs, were interacting and helping on this issue?
I think the main organizations that we meet was we met with someone from Komnas Perempuan, PK. I don't remember the names of the organizations anymore.
No, that's fine.
But so most of them were working on kind of doing workshops on in the villages where they were working on or in the districts that they were working, trying to change the mind, especially of the parents, because there was this. So it came up always in the conversations that once the parents have a lot of influence of what the children do, but there was kind of this belief of them thinking that their daughters would do better and they would leave poverty if they get married to someone else's. And basically what we found in our research is this belief is wrong because they end up being worse off. So it just doesn't really help. But that's kind of one of the reasons that they usually repeat it. And also this, the example of the kidnapping and how that happened very often, and then it ended up happening, though, two adolescents getting married together. And that's why we went to do this other comparison, what happened when both are kids, to see how it's even worse for those kids. They are even worse off. But most of the work that they were doing was one, trying to do information campaigns in the places that they were working, and the other one was trying to provide legal support to those girls who got married and then they ended up in worse off situations. So that was other part of the work that they were doing.
Okay, no, thanks very much. And yes, it's very revealing. If you have two very young ones get married, their outcomes and their consequences for them are a lot greater. So the next question is from Sarah. Do people, and I think more for Prof. Alim, but both of you, do people, that is the parents, ever get prosecuted if their children are involved in underage marriage? Does anyone, if there's a non-compliance and let's say they haven't got the dispensation, what happens?
So far, there is any case, yeah, the parent who then force their children for getting married is not really have any punishment, yeah, but just that they are against the right of the children, and we do have the law how to protect of child. How to protect of the child right, for example, we do have the law. But I think so far the implementation of the punishment is not really work well.
Yep. And it's not just on this issue in Indonesia, but in many issues. We have laws, and it's how you get them to work, you know, over a long period of time. It can be tricky. Thank you. Ibu Diana, any comment?
No, that was what I learned as well, that there was this disconnection, and not even the dispensation was even necessary in some places. Families were not even applying for dispensation because just the religious leader could just execute the marriage and that's it, and it's accepted. Yeah.
So and now a follow-up question about particularly the research, Diana, that you have done. What is the percentage of child marriage greater in remote areas as compared to urban areas, or is it similar, or what drives the difference? Yep.
We didn't look at what drives the difference, and that the numbers that don't necessarily come from my research, but comes from other reports that the Indonesian Bureau of Statistics have produced, and it shows that definitely it's more prevalent in rural and remote areas, and this is true in Indonesia and in many other countries.
And Prof. Alim, we saw the map that Ibu Diana showed. Your impression of the hotspots, there seemed, where there is data, that sat well with you. I'm just trying to get a sense of the extent of the rural. Rural and remote. Is the more remote you are, the harder, the greater the child marriage. Is that correct? The more remote, not just rural.
Okay, I think it's not only the geographical aspect that contribute to the child marriage, but also the ideology of religious interpretation, which is sometimes I think is not really right interpretation, yeah, because sometimes they just refers to one story and then the story is not really right. For example, in particular in the Muslim community, maybe I just can I just share in glance what we have done relating to the religious issue for
Yes,
stopping
right.
child marriage. Okay, maybe. Okay, this is the one because I'm also one of the fatwa members in this organization. Now we have the fiqh of child rights. Fiqh is like the guidance for religious part, yeah. And this is one of the fiqh of child protection, and then child marriage is one of the issue. In this week, this is for Muhammadiyah, yeah, for Muhammadiyah organization. And this is like our magazine that try to stop child marriage issues, yeah. And also in our website to stop child marriage. And we try to give new interpretation, which is the requirement to have married is what is majority, what is mature, yeah, kematangan, mature.
Yeah, maturity.
Maturity is not only because maturity is something abstract. Then one of the indicator that someone getting mature is age. So then this we try to give the interpretation that the age is one of the indicator that someone is getting mature. Yeah. Okay. It is and this one actually we propose not 19 but after 21 in this organization. So not 19 but after 21. And then we also make new interpretation about the history of Aisyah. Yeah, Aisyah, they got married is not under 18, not 9, yeah, because some people they believe that Aisyah married with the Prophet Muhammad in age of 9. But we try to give argument, no, not at 9, but maybe around 17 and 18 years old at that time. So we give new interpretation of the age of marriage of Aisyah. Okay, this is just the sexual education, sexuality, comprehensive sexuality education. And okay, this is relating to the digital quotient. And this is the one that I talk about our research. Yeah, our research relating to the empowerment. Yeah, and this is the number of child married in the village, and this is every number, how many married, divorce, and so on in every village in the district. And this is the one that I said that one of the competition, one of the finding that there is competition to get motorbike, and then they get the girls. Okay, education, and this is the one that they have higher rate of child marriage because they don't have high school. In Muntuk, for example, one of village, this is very higher. It is highest the number because yeah, they don't have any senior high school at that places. So there is a correlation between the accessibility of education, and this is just qualitative data. And okay, this is the one that we work with the agent of change in that village. So not directly working with the child marriage victim, but we also try to ask the women women of Aisyah in that district to work together. And we also have, okay, this is the what is it, the tema, the material that we deliver during the 3 months. And this is the empowerment, this is me. We try to have together and then make empowerment. And then also we give some money for economic empowerment to them. And they make like this one. This is part of the economic empowerment to the child marriage family. Okay, that's just one of the example from our research relating to that go directly to the victim. Yeah.
No, that's very interesting, and that detail I think helps us better understand how you can start to influence. No, it's been really interesting. Thank you, Professor Ali. Just getting through, we've got a few more questions, but we're fine for time. Cass asked, should we promote the anti-child marriage movement only to women? Only to women, and no, only to women, or also to men who are unsatisfied of the results of the marriage, or to women and men who think they are doing okay as well. That's an interesting point. I think in a big picture way, Ibu Ali, how does the strategy, and Ibu Diana referred to that too, the national strategy for prevention of child marriages, what kind of promotion, what is it that is in there that might help answer this question? Who do we promote it to?
Me?
Yeah, sorry, Prof. Alim. Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is part of the national strategy that belongs to the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, as I mentioned before. And then they work together with provincial level as well, who work on women and child advocacy, and also working like with the ICA Muslimat and also media to stop child marriage. And I think they also try to involve religious leader, yeah, not only men, not only female, but also male religious leader, because I think the ideological perspective as well is contributes, yeah, to the increasing of child marriage. For example, as in my picture, some group who call themselves as hijrah, for example, they try to campaign to have early marriage, because like not to avoid the adultery, yeah, to avoid the dating relationship, for example. So they encourage to get married. So that's why I think the religious leader in Indonesian context is quite important, as we know that in Indonesia, people 96% people believe in religion. Then so that's why religious leader is very, very important to work together, and the government asks them, yeah, to work together to stop child marriage.
Yep, no, that's extremely good point. That we need to remember that Indonesia is a religious country in a very good way, and to be able to have that influence, you cannot ignore the leaders in that. Absolutely. Okay, Dr. Diana. Yes,
oh, okay,
sure.
Great. I was just remembering a couple of conversations with the grassroots organizations that we met, and I remember that they mentioned a lot that their programs were usually targeted at women, but they also found that those programs seem not to work very efficiently, because at the end, the husband is the one who makes the decision, and they find that really hard. So the women could know all the information and they could go to their husband and said not to do it. But if the husband decided that that's what he wanted to do, then that's what it would happen. So what they always concluded was that programs how involve both parents, not only the women, they were more likely to be more effective. So like programs who target both the mother and the father to help them see through what are the consequences of their decisions would be more beneficial, and would have likely to have better effects on the outcomes that they were looking for. Yeah.
Yep. Good. That's good messages for us, and people like Soroptimists and other non-government organisations who are interested in empowering women and children need to think about how we go about doing this. There's one here, Dr. Diana. Could you give comparisons on child marriage in Indonesia and our neighbouring countries, including ASEAN and Australia? That would be of interest to who was that? That was from
Kusmarihati.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Neighboring countries. So I don't know the numbers exactly, but Vietnam, it's around, it's lower than Indonesia.
Often interested in Malaysia, you know, very close to us.
Malaysia. Philippines is higher, which is the other one, and Malaysia, I hope is in my, I don't have that on the top of my head, but for the person who is interested, maybe I don't have Malaysia. Oh,
well, that's okay. But look, if there's something of a follow-up, we can follow up in that. Now, I'm looking at the time. We've only got time for a couple more questions. So thanks for that. No. So it's different in neighbouring countries, and that would be of interest, actually, I think, to our audience.
Yeah, like, I just want to say, like, it is more prevalent in places in Africa.
Yeah.
Latin America as well, it's quite high. Thailand is higher, Vanuatu is higher, Solomon Islands, I don't know, Malaysia, but I could post in the chat box our report, which at the end of it has the countries ranked. So then
Good.
the person
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that offer. Yes, your report with, and then we can just go and have a look at the countries. Wonderful. Good question. Now, look, here's one for Prof. Alim. This is about knowing, and it's from Philomena. I'm not sure where Philomena's from, but I don't think she's from Indonesia. Are divorces legal, or can a man just leave the family? And is there any support for the family from the man's side when he's left?
Ibu?
Prof. Alim?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. The divorce, yes, divorce is legal for Indonesia, for Muslim community, because it's based on their belief. Yeah, in some religion they don't agree with divorce, and I think there is interesting trend right now in Indonesia for the divorce. 70% of the divorce is from the women, not from the men. And now I'm also doing research on the trend of the house husband, bab rumah tangga, and the number is also increasing, because right now in Indonesia, from elementary school until university, the best student mostly are women. So because the capitalists value that the more productive they are, and then they will hire to be employment at that corporate, then there is problem for men to get a job well. And then some of the family, the wife has more income than the husband. And some cases, the husband have crisis masculinity. They feel that they are not really good men. So then to put back their masculinity, some of them do domestic violence. And the wife, because they try to imitate their husband when they get money, when last time when they got money, they dominate, and then the wife is also make domination to the husband. So the husband is more, and then is in critical situation for the psychological aspect, because the wife dominate them. So that's why then the wife will feel, when I'm poor, my husband looked on me, but now I'm rich, I got domestic violence. So what they want? So then they will go to the religious court and then got divorced. So 70% of the divorce is come from women right now in Indonesia.
Okay.
So because of that kind of situation, under the Ministry of Religious Affairs, we have like premarital counseling. Yeah, premarital counseling. And then we train the religious leader who write the marriage certificate, kepala-kepala KUA, across Indonesia, because I'm one of the national instructor, facilitator, and then we try to make equality in the family. We try to change from God, husband, and wife become triangle, God, husband, and wife. So equality position, including we can't measure the power is based on the money they got. Yeah, but based on the rule. Yeah, so we it is prohibit to look down others, yeah, based on the what they got or their income, for example. So
yes, thank you, Prof. Alim. That is complicated. It's complicated in a different way. I love the triangle. Thank you. And with that, I'm passing over to you, Ibu Ila, because we've been told to be very much on time, and that's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Ila.
Thank you very much. If anyone in this group has questions, perhaps we could direct them by email to Prof. Alim and to Ibu Diana. Yeah, look, it's been a fascinating discussion that we've had today, and thank you, Astrida, for leading question time. Much appreciated. The incidence of child brides is also a major global issue, not one just in Indonesia, as Ibu Diana mentioned earlier on. And it's not something that's going to disappear overnight. We know that from our experience here in Indonesia. But we Soroptimists sincerely hope that this session has served to raise greater awareness amongst us all, wherever we are. Yeah, and I know there are many tuning in today from overseas. And hopefully it will lead us to consider advocating in various ways to maybe lobby for changes, and not only in Indonesia, but elsewhere where practice of child brides is an ongoing issue. And finally, we hope that you as an individual will consider taking some action, because we at Soroptimist believe that together we can make a difference. So on that note, I'd like to end this session, but if you want any more information about what we do as Soroptimists, you'll now see details on the screen that Ori has put up here. We'd love to hear from you, and as we said, this is membership month, so if you would like to join us, even if you're like to join from afar, yeah, now with the pandemic, we have members who are not necessarily in the same city. So please do contact us, yeah? Now, usually after we have talks, we like to give our speakers a gift. But unfortunately, we're miles apart, but we'll give you a virtual flower. And this one is a purple flower, and purple is a very special color to Soroptimists. That happens to be an orchid or anggrek, which is very, very popular here in Indonesia. But once again, to our speakers, Professor Ali Mathur and Dr. Diana Contreras Suarez, many thanks for your time. I know that you're very busy women, and we appreciate that you've agreed to give talks today. And before we end this session, I'd like to also express our sincere thanks to those who have helped behind the scenes in arranging this webinar, and especially to our IT volunteers. Everything now on Zoom requires IT savviness, and one who's our club president, and also a loyal Soroptimist friend, Mike Nicholson, who's helped us arranging webinars for the past two years. So very many thanks.